Hello and a very warm welcome. You're watching the blockbuster headlines today's CII Budget Roundtable. You will not see a more high-profile gathering to decode this budget than what we've put together over here. Let me begin by introducing our guests for this program. I'll start from my immediate right, Ashwini Kumar, Senior Leader of the Congress Party, Naushad Forbes, Director, Forbes Marshall, also Vice President CII. Thank you very much, sir, for joining us. Vikram Kirloskar, Vice Chairman, Toyota. We've got Ajay Sriram, President, CII. We've got Chandrajit Banerjee, Director General CII, Mr. Aroon Purie, Chairman India Today Group. We've got Subodh Bhargav, Chairman Tata Communications, Sunil Kant Munjal from the Hero Group, N.K. Singh, a man who's seen and made several budgets, now in his new capacity as a member of the BJP. Praful Patel, former Civil Aviation Minister, Editor-in-Chief of the India Today Group, Shekhar Gupta. What I want to do right at the beginning is get all our guests to give our viewers a broad sense of their takeaway from this budget. You've got 0 to 10 on this, and you've got a thumbs up and a thumbs down. So where do we start with? We'll start with the CII President. As an aggregation of Indian industry, what do you make, sir, of this budget?
I will give it definitely a thumbs up.
And how many numbers are you giving?
I would not like to give a number for two reasons.
Yes.
One is, frankly, we haven't seen the details, and the devil is in the detail. So I think it's unfair to rate a budget just on 2 hours of hearing, maybe 5% of the total budget document. And second, I think let's wait for some time for implementation to see how it actually pans out.
Broad thumbs up, but
So
I do not dissuade the others.
Ajay is also conflicted. He has to state his conflict of interest. Sriram College.
No, I'll be honest with you. I don't think it's a conflict of interest. I think it's an asset for the country that he studied there.
Mr. Vikram Kirloskar.
Yes. Finally, this country has realized what it
Thumbs
needed.
down, and how many
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up. And how many marks are you giving Jetli?
I think I run the same on the marks.
That's not, you don't tell a good precedent, Mr. Sriram. That's
But
not.
I've said the same thing in other interviews.
Though.
I've said the same thing in the other interviews. It's not correct to give a mark because there are too many items there. There's some things I like, some things I don't like, some things I didn't understand. Mostly didn't understand. So it's very difficult to give marks.
Why didn't you understand? What is there not to have understood?
Well, the basic thing I couldn't understand is how we are going to get those 4.1 numbers, and I'm still not able to see the math. And when I see the math and understand the math, that's when
let me put some numbers out. Mr. Purie, we're hoping you set the precedent by putting out a
Well,
number.
I said this earlier that, although it's my channel, that we should have a sign which is like this, right? Which is horizontal, meaning it's not a great budget, but it's not a disappointing budget to that degree, right? So I think I would rate it like that. And as numbers go, I would put it as 5, right? Whatever 5 is.
Why 5? 5 is a very middling budget. Why are you disappointed?
Because I think it lacked the, the economic survey had some very bold statements about the economy and the new way forward. I don't see that translated in this budget in terms of that there should be less government. It's still little schemes, giving things, doing things better. It's just improved UPA 2, right, in that sense. So that there are good things in the budget, but I think that overall thrust to me is very weak.
Subodh Bhargav.
Well, certainly thumbs up, and marks also I'm willing to stick my neck out. 7.
I'd say 7.
Yes, 7.
Okay, but the point that was made was not as bold and as structurally imaginative a budget as it could or should have been.
I think it's very symbolic in terms of long-term direction which Mr. Jetli would take the economy towards deep reforms as we go forward. Number of announcements speak about that in terms of tax administration reforms and a few other things. But on the short term, it falls far too short of any trigger for the economy to get back into momentum. N.K.
Singh, you must explain why is it not as bold and as imaginative a budget as it could or should have been, as everyone was expecting? Well, you had the mandate, you could have done bigger things. Why is Jetli falling short?
Let me say this, that in all...
How many marks are you giving the budget, sir?
Well, I'm certainly giving...
11 is not allowed.
Showing what I'm giving. 9.
Why is that?
For the simple reason being that I think that, Arun is right, but you must be conscious of the fact that he is grappling in terms of when the bulk of the year is through. But new budget making will begin now in September itself by the time this budget is passed. Mr. Chidambaram, having presented already an interim budget, had created a lot of problems in terms of shoving a lot of expenditure into next year, taking credit for revenues which were really not due. And therefore, really speaking, he had to build on some of the disabilities coming out of that, compounded by some new other factors like the events on the agriculture sector, the monsoon, the uncertainties in the Iraq. So I think given the circumstances, he was hemmed in by the fact that you cannot expect revenue buoyancy when they have had sub 5% growth for 2 successive years, when the manufacturing sector has been really growing at 0% for the first time for 2 years, when the industry sector as a whole has been growing at 0.9%. So look at the backdrop from where the new finance minister had to begin. In the context of this, therefore, and circumscribed by exogenous and endogenous events, what he has done, in my view, is a very determined effort to put momentum back in the economy.
And Kay, since you've been in the establishment, it's also a unique budget, given that it's the first time in many years that we've had a budget done without a chief economic advisor in the finance ministry and without a deputy chairman of the planning commission.
Perhaps that could have been the advantage.
Sorry,
and having said that, 90% that he gave Jaitley today will not get him into Sri Ram College.
Can I just butt in one thing? I just got some news. We were asking, we had a big issue regarding valuation, excise valuation in the car industry, and there were some adverse cases and we were fighting on that. Praful knows about it. For last 2 years, I just got news that the notification was issued an hour ago. Clearing that issue permanently. You know, I think there's some fast movement. So,
Patel,
so perhaps I'll be much more positive.
The Thatcher budget, because it doesn't seem to be, that's what people were expecting Jaitley and Modi to do. Is it a continuation of what Mr. Chidambaram and the UPA were doing in any case?
Let's be very clear about one thing, that I think every year this hype about budget, I think somewhere we'll have to modulate it. Because we've really started imagining that one budget changes it all for the country. And I think budgets are a continuation of any government's exercise, whether it's the past, present, or maybe in future. But having said that, I think definitely, overall, I think it's in the positive direction. I don't want to be critical just because we are not in the government. But broadly speaking, the expectations were far too more, and I also expected something much more to happen. You know, even when you talk about basically growth, I think when Mr. Chidambaram talked of 4.5% fiscal deficit, I think it was by contracting the economy and not so much by expanding the economy and containing expenditure. So if you do that, and this year if you say that I'm going to come down to 4.1%, the fine print, the detail is yet not out, in the sense that how has he brought it down to 4%, 4.1%? Has he expanded the economy enough, or has he also continued with the path of, you know, fiscal consolidation by contracting the economy? So I would await the detail, but I would certainly say that on broad parameters, I think it's not a disappointment, but I'm sure much more could have been done. Again, give him the benefit of doubt. A month and a half into our new government, a new finance minister can't be expected to give you all the miracles, especially when he's not inherited a very strong economy.
Okay. I take a very quick break. Rahul Bajaj is also standing. I see him. So we bring him back just on the other side of these matches. Back just in a moment.